to wait.
Randy, don't forget your microphone if you won't mind.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Morning, everyone.
Morning, Mr. Chair.
Approval of county board minutes. I get a motion, I need a second.
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Any additions or deletions?
Not at this time?
All right, I'll ask for a motion in a second.
So moved. Second.
I have a motion and a second. You can get whoever you want for a second on that one. Any more discussion? If not, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Lake Shamana lid. You sure can bring all four of you up here. Please state your name for the record.
Sure. Cindy Kevern, Lake Shamana Lid. We also have Artis Sandstrom with us today, who's the new Lid member, Lid board member.
Congratulations, I hope.
Bob Cole.
Bob.
Fred Combe, treasurer.
Morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, we're here this morning to talk about our annual update for the Lake Shamana Lid. I'll keep it a little bit brief because I know we've been here a few times before talking about some of it, so please ask if you have questions, but otherwise I don't want to bore you with too many details. We recently had our annual meeting, as you know. We had 5 votes on the annual meeting ballot, and all 5 votes actually were overwhelmingly approved. And we included in your packet this morning the vote tally, so that information is there. This morning, we'd like to go through an update. We'd also respectfully ask for approval of the budget and also for the delegation of authority to exercise the powers of a city to finance our project, so we could talk about that later. Excuse me. In terms of our high water outlet project, as you know, we hired an engineering firm, WSN, this year. We did that earlier in the spring. We completed a preliminary analysis on June 3rd, which included recommendations for a route to the northeast of the lake. That was an important step for us because it enabled us to actually get the grant money and do a grant agreement. It also established for the first time a route to the northeast and the use of an infiltration site using a gravel pit. Excuse me. We, as I mentioned, signed the agreement. We held an informational meeting on July 6th, which was a really good meeting for our Lid members to hear status of the project and to ask a lot of questions. Actually gave us a lot of ideas at that meeting. During the month of July, we worked very hard with many of the agencies to talk about permitting and the route and alternatives that we had. We also worked on some cost information so that we had something for our annual meeting. We also toured, I shouldn't say we, some of our Lid members toured one of the other projects, which has been very helpful, that we've been in contact with them on an ongoing basis to give us information on their project. It was a much larger, more expensive project, in some ways kind of the gold standard of projects actually, but they've been very helpful in giving us information. And they're actually successful. They're pumping today, their water has been lowered a foot. In August, as you know, we had our annual meeting. We had some help from the county in terms of vote tallying. We want to thank people for that. We also, at that meeting, were able to update our Lid members on activities during the year as well as the high water project. We had lots of good questions. In fact, the meeting, I think, went till 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So it was, I thought, a very good meeting. We continue now to work with property owners. We are going to be doing some more borings and data modeling to make sure that we understand the data and understand where the water is going to go once we come out of the lake. We continue to work on an operations plan. WSN will be working on a EAW, excuse me, environmental assessment worksheet, and we'll also be working on easements. So that's kind of coming up for the fall. I also want to kind of highlight what we've done with AIS for the past year. Kind of similar to what we've done before. We use herbicides. We found a new herbicide that we started using in 2018 that is cheaper, so we've kind of saved some money on that. We use a herbicide and a combination of hand pulling to control the Eurasian milfoil. And in the handout, we do have a couple of pictures that shows basically a picture of where the most of the milfoil is, and then the treatment area, so you can kind of see that they model each other. And that's on the west side of the lake, is the Eurasian milfoil. The other thing is Bob is here, and he kind of heads up the Quad Lakes Grant Program, which started we were able to get some money to do ambassadors this year, which has been very successful. We also created a little card handout for the no wake zone, so we've been trying to inform people of that. And then also we tested, the villager test for zebra mussels, and still found that we have none. So to date, we're just really, really lucky that we don't have any zebra mussels. Communications, we worked very hard on communications this year. We have regular board of director meetings. We've announced them on the website. We hold them at a local location or online. We started using an online conference tool this year, which has been, I think, pretty successful, and we'll probably continue to use that through the winter months when it's difficult for people to get to a local location, including 2 of our board members that live in the Twin Cities. Beginning in February, we started monthly newsletters. We've gotten very good feedback on that. I think we're up to about 185 subscribers on our newsletter. We have reorganized the website and tried to, actually the person that does it for us has some nice charts now. It's a lot easier to find information. We have a lot of information out there. We continue to put additional information. We had, at our annual meeting, a couple board members, or a couple lid members, I should say, came up with suggestions for additional information for out there. For example, we're gonna start putting all the WSN status reports out there. We're gonna put financial information, actually on a monthly basis out there, so we'll be putting more and more information out there for the property owners. We've had several mailings this past year. I think we had one in October, one in January. In June, we sent out a mailing announcing nominations were open for the 2 director seats. And then we also sent out a mailing in July announcing the annual meeting. And I know we've talked about this, that we included a letter, the budget and voting information, the project plan, costs, and timeline information, the director candidate information, 2 voting cards, and a return envelope. So it was quite the hefty mailing. By the way, on the nominations, we received 4 nominations and 1 person withdrew. So we had 3 people on the ballot. And then Bob Cole and Artis Sandstrom were elected for the 2-year term. And they had to be, those particular seats had to be permanent residents. Next year, there will be 3 seats open. My seat, and I am a permanent resident, and then 2 seats that are seasonal. So we'll have 3 seats open next year for election. And as you know, we certainly worked on the orders of establishment this year that were approved on August 20th. And we had started using a lot of the processes identified in that establishment order over the course of the year in terms of voting and publishing and meeting information, et cetera. One of the requirements in the new orders of establishment was that we take an oath. We had a board meeting on Sunday. We all signed the oath, and it was handed to Deb Gruber this morning. So that has been fulfilled. Coming up in 2020, we have a number, kind of some of the same things. For example, with AIS, we expect that we would do many of the same activities as we've done in the past. We're still hopeful that we'll get some Quad Lakes money and be able to continue our ambassador program. One new thing that we're gonna do this year is we did fund an inflow study. So we have asked for volunteers from our membership to work with us on looking at inflows into the lake and to see if there's anything that can be done with that as well. In terms of the high water project, and you're probably kind of aware of some of the activities we have coming up. Once we establish that route, which is really the important next step, we will then be finalizing plans and specifications. We'll be working with the DNR and permitting. We'll be getting that environmental worksheet completed, and really all leading to getting a project that's shovel ready. At that point, then, we're gonna be doing the bidding. And one of the things I wanted to kind of talk through today is on page 4 of our letter, we have kind of a little timeline, and it's not real in-depth, but it gives you an idea of what we're looking at. One of the things that we have been in discussions with Jason Murray from David Drone Associates is that we've always had this quandary of how do we do the bonding, when we don't exactly know what the grant amount is. And we want to get the financing done before we issue, once we get the bids and before we start construction. So one of the ideas that they came up with is to do temporary financing. And if you notice, in April of this coming year, 2020, we have a kind of a task on there to adopt a project assessment role and issue initial project financing. So that's kind of assuming that we do not know the grant amount at that time. And what would happen is we'd issue temporary financing to enable us to move into construction and complete construction. And after construction is complete, we would know two things. One is, what is the total amount of the construction? And hopefully, the total amount of any grants that we're gonna receive. So at that point, then, we would actually do the bonding, pay back the temporary financing, and then do the final assessment. So that's kind of the financing situation that they've come up with. My analogy is kind of a bridge loan. It's kind of, sometimes people do that with mortgages, for example, so it's kind of my analogy for that. Luckily, one of the worries I had was, well, is the interest rate gonna be very high? But in looking into it, it looks like the interest rate is very similar to bonding, so at least we wouldn't be paying any, exorbitant interest costs, for example. So that's our timeline coming up. We are looking at holding an initial public hearing for the 429 process this fall. We're looking at doing it in mid-October. I think I might have mentioned that last week as well. We held one of the things I wanted to inform you on is that we held a board meeting the other day. And one of the things that we need to do as we look forward to that first initial public hearing is the project cost that we have at that point is the maximum project cost that we can have throughout the project. So that is the most that we can spend. We can obviously go less, we can't go more. We got together with our WSN, our engineering firm, had them look at what the costs are accumulated over the last couple of months because of three things that have really changed. One is change in route. We've gone from, I'll call it the least expensive routes with property owners that are not interested in working with us today to a more expensive route. And I'm forgetting the second thing. I always forget the second thing.
The change in pumps?
Yes, thank you. Going to submersible pumps so that they're less noisy. No, I've forgotten the third thing.
Oh.
It'll come to me. But anyway, so they have redone the project costs. And we also, because of the worry about the alternative routes, we've also increased our contingency amount from 10 to 13%. So the total project amount that we are at right now that we're seeking for our public hearing is $2,275,000. If you remember at the annual meeting, the amount was $2,091,475. So it's about $160,000 increase. And we did that purposely because we wanted to make sure that whatever the amount is that we have at the public hearing, because not every factor is known at this time, is that is truly the maximum amount. It is about, just to give you some guidance, about a year and a half ago when we established, I'll call it the previous route, it's about $500,000 less than that. So we are about $500,000 less than we were a year and a half ago. And with that, one other thing I wanted to mention is that one of the quandaries we have coming up is we do have a 5-member volunteer board here. There's a lot of work to do. We have, over the past year, kind of divvied out the work, if I can use it that word, where certain people, for example, Bob does the Quad Lakes grant, Rick Rosar does a lot of the AIS work, et cetera. We decided this year to make it a little more formal. So we've created, I think it's 11 committees that each, 2 members of our lid board would be responsible for. So we have a grants committee, for example, we have a high water project committee, a operations plan committee. At the annual meeting, we asked for volunteers for the committees. Now, we didn't get a lot, we got, I think, 5. One was the bylaws, for example, inflows was another one. So we're gonna ask those people to help us. We do have 2 people that are very interested in helping us with grants, so we're kind of excited about that. And then as we send out newsletters, we're gonna ask for more help. So I think it'll be helpful to have those committees kind of working behind the scenes on some of the tasks that we have coming up.
Gentlemen, I'm gonna ask for a motion and a second, and this doesn't mean that you're approving the, what's in front of us, just so we can have more
I'll
discussion.
make a motion to approve, Mr. Chair.
I have a motion, I need a second.
I'll second it.
Any more discussion, gentlemen?
So the motion is to approve the budget and the
As,
charge
correct.
as translated for
so in
2020.
this case, then I'll just read the budget. You have 22, and I'm rounding up or down, 22,000 for the operations budget, correct?
Yes,
26.5 for the aquatic invasive AIS,
yes,
156 for the high water budget.
yes.
And Cindy, I had a question on that 156. Is that included in the 2.275?
No.
It is not, that's
It is
above
not.
and beyond.
That is a separate budget for, that, basically, there's 2 things that that budget includes. One is the detailed design and other engineering tasks to get us to a shovel-ready project to be able to bid. We also included some initial operations and maintenance costs, assuming that we have some pumping going on next year.
And I just wanted you to clarify that, thank you.
Mr. Chair, just a
Commissioner
question on, probably for Deb. Vote number 4, establishing the high water project outlet. On this form, it's 2.091. And you were saying it's gonna go up to 2.275. Is that something we need to?
What I recall understanding is that it was an approximate amount when the vote was there, and it was identified as an approximate amount. I assume then this includes the bonding costs and estimates from all of those.
It does not. It does not.
It should, because that would be additional, if you
So,
recall, so
Yes.
David
according-
Drown and,
I'm sorry to interrupt, but according to our attorney and bond counsel, the amount that we include, I'll call it in our resolution to establish the public hearing, it does not have to be, it should only be the project cost. At the public hearing, we're going to talk about what those costs are.
so it was notified that, it was identified that it was an approximate cost, knowing that it could change as a result of that, so good question, though.
Very good, thank you.
And again, I appreciate that, but, so again, that bonding is not part of it, because it says pre-construction, isn't that part of the pre-construction, the 156, where that bonding,
The 156?
yeah.
It really will be included in the project cost itself.
All right. And then moving forward 4, so I'm assuming, that, because it does, I mean, we could amend your motion to 2.275 if you would like.
That's not what's being asked right now. We're just asking about the 2020 budget and the 2020 charge that's being placed. Do you have a total for the 2020 charge per, like, do you have
It's on
that?
that last sheet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, it's
The
per, it's
156.
sectioned out
Right,
per, okay,
right.
no, that's fine. That's what's being asked right now. As we move forward with that authority and when you eventually approve a
Correct.
tax roll for when that bond would happen is when you'd address any
Yes.
additional amounts for that cost.
I just want to say too, you ran a good annual meeting, and the
Thank you.
communications has been improved very much so, and I thought the voting process worked out very well too.
Good, thank you.
Thanks for moving forward with all that stuff.
Any more discussion, gentlemen? Commissioner Blaine?
Just for clarification, so the 156,000 for the pre-construction and operations, we're asking to approve that today as part of that. But at this point in time, we don't have a finalized identified route, is that correct?
That's correct.
And we don't, and because of that, or along with that, then we do not have agreements on easements from affected property owners. Is that correct?
That is correct. We have several property owners that we're working with. We've had our ups and downs, I'll say that. We had an up yesterday, and we had a down yesterday, so we're still working through that. We have a couple property owners that we're working with very closely to get easement agreements, but there's probably at least 4, if not 5, that we need them from. So we are still continuing to work that. And there's also, I don't mean to interrupt, but there's also various, so in other words, if this property owner says absolutely not, there's another way we could go this way, so then we've talked to a different property owner. So we are continuing that process.
And then to that, the indications from the DNR at this point is they are okay with where we're going or where we'd like to go with this water and the study as far as filtration back, possibly back to the lake or not back to the lake. And that is all a part of that 156 pre-construction, correct?
Correct. Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Blaine, they are continuing to work. They're doing data modeling, and there's somebody at the state DNR working with somebody from WSN to come up with what is the right number, if I can use that word, for how much water we want to put in per day into the infiltration site to make it work. So yes, they're working that through together.
Okay, very good, thank you.
Mr. Chair, but as you go through, I mean, all of that will be in place, and I kind of want to go back to that timeline, because that was nicely laid out. Certainly before, that October through December 2019 function is complete, I mean, that's going to be a permit application, needs to include exactly where the water's going to go, exactly what's going to happen, and it's going to include all the easements, all that stuff. So there's a lot to be done, and if that doesn't happen, that'll then put everything off. So none of that can move forward.
Yeah.
And again, what happens here, again, like I say, if it does get pushed off, if you can't get an easement, you have we understand there's challenges there. Again, my biggest thing, and I brought this up at the planning session, work with all the people. You got ordinary high water group, I just want you to make sure of all those things that, you involve everyone. And I know it's difficult to do, because the more people you get involved, the more opinions you have, so that's understandable. So that would be, rest assured there. And again, we're putting this in your hands from now, so and that was stressed at the last meeting too, that, we're gonna kind of wash our hands of this. So we hope that everything goes well for you guys, so that's basically.
Mr. Chair, I have just another little question on the 2 million. We're approving allegedly, tentatively, a budget here that includes 2,091,000.
No.
That we're not approving that at all. Were we just going up to 156? That's what we're approving.
We're talking about the 2020 budget.
Thank you.
And the
Thank
2020
you.
assessment roll charge.
Gotcha. That's what I wanted to be
Yeah.
clear on. Thank you.
Anything else, gentlemen? If not, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you very much.
Well, there's more.
Oh, yeah.
We're not done yet.
Not done.
And we'll probably see you again on another day yet.
See, I didn't scroll down far enough.
Okay, so the other resolution that you're here to talk about is that authority resolution. We talked about that extensively last week, and then work was done to complete this and to recognize what it is that we're asking for. And so the resolution that's presented was one that started in draft form from Cindy and company. And then I made sure that it was covering what we needed to cover from our perspective. And so that final resolution is here, with the exception that we don't have the yeses and nos for your vote included in that, but you have the data that you presented in your annual report, and then we'll include those. So this would be
sure.
related to question number 5.
Yep.
So the amounts that we want to put in for number 5, the finance authority, would be the total of 223 votes, and then yeses and nos, and we'll fill that in for that. So ultimately, what this resolution is identifying is it's kind of affirming the process that the Lake Improvement District Board asked of their members, which is to allow them to be able to continue with that process of bonding for the project that they approved also to establish in the number 4 vote. So that's what this is doing for you, or with you as a board to allow that.
And
Make a motion to approve, Mr. Chair.
I have a motion, I need a second.
Second, Mr. Chair.
And my discussion would be, could you read the resolution to us, please?
Do you want Cindy to or me to?
Makes no difference, either one.
If you don't mind, just 'cause
I-
I want to make sure I have the, can't
Whereas
read it.
its 2019 annual meeting, at the 2019 annual meeting, the Lake Shamana Lake Improvement District Board of Directors asked the Lake Shamana Lake Improvement District members to authorize the LSLID Board of Directors to establish a project, the Lake Shamana High Water Outlet Project, to reduce and manage water levels in Lake Shamana. And whereas voters at the 2019 annual meeting overwhelmingly voted to support establishment of the Lake Shamana High Water Outlet Project, and whereas at its 2019 annual meeting, the LSLID Board of Directors asked the Lake Shamana Lake Improvement District members to authorize the board to seek delegation of authority from the Morrison County Board of Commissioners pursuant to Minnesota statute, section 103B.555, subdivision 4, to exercise the powers of a city to plan, establish, construct, and finance the Lake Shamana High Water Outlet Project. And whereas the voters at the 2019 annual meeting overwhelmingly voted to support delegation of authority from the Morrison County Board of Commissioners pursuant to Minnesota statute, section 103B.555, subdivision 4. And whereas the LSLID Board of Directors have requested delegation of authority from the Morrison County Board of Commissioners pursuant to Minnesota statute, section 103B.555, subdivision 4, as approved by the voters. Now therefore be it resolved, the Morrison County Board of Commissioners, for the purposes of planning, establishment, construction, and financing of the Lake Shamana High Water Outlet Project, delegates authority as authorized by Minnesota statute, section 103B.555, subdivision 4, to the Lake Shamana Lake Improvement District Board of Directors.
Thank you for that. Anyway, gentlemen, I have a motion and a second on the floor. Any more discussion?
Mr. Chair, if I could clarify one more thing. So a question did come up, I believe at the annual meeting, and then it's been presented since, about the general authority of cities and what this means and how that's different. And so I think it just to be clear, the Lake Improvement District, what you are being asked to grant to them is the authority to plan, establish, construct, and finance this project as identified specifically, not that now you have all authorities as a city, now that you have all of the ability to be able to behave as a city would behave in statute. And so I think that's an important clarification, and I think that's one that was of concern. Things like it was brought up, well, you're seeking easements with property owners to be able to utilize components or have authority over some of their land. That's what you're allowed to do, and that's what you're exercising and hoping to establish. It's not eminent domain where you can now force that, like, say, in a road project with a city. That's not what's being granted. That's not what's being implied by any of this. And so I think that's an important clarification, because that question was asked at the meeting, and I think since then. And so it's about this project, and it's about the confines of the project as identified.
And for myself to clarify, again, I understand that, but like Deb made the point, is that we're not giving you authorization. If you can't get an easement, you can't use eminent domain. That does not give you the authority to do that.
And that was a confusing point, I think, for folks, just to set that out and establish that.
Any more discussion, gentlemen?
Mr. Chair, if I may, we talked about this at the planning session, but underlying the importance of what they're asking us to do in delegating authority to them, and us understanding the fact that we have 5 citizens on a board that are undertaking a tremendous project with a massive amount of details, and we're talking about a project in excess of $2 million in utilization of members' resources there too. I just want to reiterate the point I made at the planning meeting, and I'm sure that you understand and are following along with this, though, too, in the sense that you're going to need help in this process, and we understand that. And I'm glad that in your report today, Cindy and the rest of the board, that you've mentioned that you have had discussions and you have interaction with legal counsel and with fiscal advice on this process too. You know, we look at this as kind of, you know, pushing the bird out of the nest and you're going to learn how to fly kind of thing. You know, we want people to be successful in whatever endeavors they have within our county, and we want you to be too. The best way we can do that is to help educate you on the fact that this is a big undertaking, and good and pertinent advice will be not just helpful, it'll be necessary. And we believe you understand at this point in time what you're kind of getting yourself into here. And communication, as Mr. Chair and Commissioner Lemire have said, has been better between this board and your members, and we think that's a definite first step in the right direction here too. So we wish you good luck with this, but encourage you to continue to seek the best counsel you can get to ensure success in your endeavors. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Anything else, gentlemen? Any more discussion, questions? I have a motion and a second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
All right, we will be in touch as the
Thank you.
process continues.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chair, we have other lake improvement districts in the county.
I see
And
that.
another one's going to come up and visit.
And Sullivan, and it looks like it's Dean.
Morning.
Morning. Please state your name for the record.
My name is Dean Johnson. I'm the new secretary, new treasurer for Sullivan Lid.
And your distinguished guests
And
are?
this is Ken Jensen, secretary for Lid, and Paul Cheetah, former.
What do you have for us?
Well, today we're submitting our 2020 budget. And that's what you have in front of you. And if there's, of course, these are just approximates again, but this is basically gone off of what we had to spend last year.
So what types of projects did you do, or what did this encompass?
This encompasses the treatment for curly leaf pondweed.
Okay, good, all right. And you aren't undertaking anything more, you aren't
No,
diving into
at this time, we have no
Okay.
other, no zebras, no zebra mussels, no anything. So,
Good.
very fortunate that we're only dealing with curly leaf.
Okay, so business as usual, continue as you
Business
have
as
in the
usual.
past, all right.
Mr. Chair, I'll move on this for further discussion.
Second.
I got a motion, second. Any more discussion?
Mr. Chair, I would ask, you all have had an annual meeting, I'm to anticipate.
Yes, we did have an annual meeting in August, and where we voted, we had 3 new members come on, myself, Ken,
Okay.
and Jim Hill. So, and all 3 of us are lake members.
And I'm anticipating at that annual meeting that you did talk about the budget, the upcoming
Yes, we
budget,
went over the budget.
and had support or did not have support?
We had full support.
Perfect.
So, Mr. Chair, the total budget is the 60,300, the charge is 25,500, it looks like, or $100 per parcel that you have. Oh,
Correct.
Perfect.
If I may, was that the same as last year? Yes, no?
No, we lost our gambling, last year there was gambling money so this is an increase. I believe last year was 40.
40, so.
So it's a significant increase.
But yet your membership didn't have a problem with that as you presented that?
No, they did not.
may, that was also presented at the annual meeting, the big fall meeting with all the lake residents. And that's, they also approved the $100.
Yeah, again, for future notice, I wouldn't mind seeing that vote down here, just so we, look at it, so it was voted like 20-4, or 200-4, or whatever, that's kinda nice to have.
I will certainly do that for you.
So moving forward.
Mr. Chair, does it say it on this piece of paper and I just don't see it?
No.
The $100?
Oh, the $100 is on there,
What's that?
yep.
Request.
Request for assessment.
Got it. Thank you. Thank you very much.
So then the total amount would be 60,300, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And just, how many parcels are on Lake Sullivan? Did we?
266.
All right. Okay, gentlemen, any more discussion? All right, I have a motion and a second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Easy
Thank you.
peasy.
There you go. Good to see you. Nice to meet you.
Sheriff,
I think you might as well
I
stay up.
was confused. It's the Dakota County Sheriff, Tim Leslie. Thank you.
All right. I see we've got Rich Perry Sewer. Come on up, please. And if you could state your name for the record. I'll give you time to sit down.
Good morning.
Morning.
Mr. Chair, members of the board here. Chuck Storkamp, Rich Prairie Sewer and Water. Have
Herb
been-
Borszewski, co-chair.
Morning, Chuck. Morning, Herb.
Morning.
So I see we have a blank piece of paper, but then there was another one forwarded to us. You'll have to let me switch over to that. Did we
Is
switch?
there anything in particular in the report that you wanted to go over? Do you want me to bring it up?
In
Or do you just?
financial?
Yeah.
Maybe I'll just touch a couple things that have changed since last year, and
Okay,
then
let's
Herb has the financial in front of him, if you want to check on anything financial. A couple changes that were made since last year, we changed our rate structure. And basically, what that did is smaller users like, single people living in a house only using 1,500 gallons a month. We're charging them a lesser amount now, and we went to a gallon usage for every 1,000, it gradually gets more. Basically, what it does is, like my sister, she's single, uses 1,500 gallons. Her water and sewer bill dropped about $10 a month. And where we're making it up is up on the other end, the higher users are paying more. And through this process, we had Rural Water come in and look at our rate structure and analyze it. And the lady there said, just about all cities and districts are going to this. The higher users are going to pay more of the expense rather than these single people taking so much burden. So it's just kind of a way to.
Just to clarify, it doesn't have to be a single people, it could be a conservative family in there, and they could be not
Right.
using as much water.
Yeah, it works by gallon
Yeah,
usage.
correct, yep.
Yeah, what we did is set a base rate with no gallon usage. Before, we used to have a minimum of 3,500 gallons, and you paid that regardless if you used
Sure.
100 gallons or 2,000. Now you pay a base rate, that's just for the service, and then you pay per gallon for every gallon you use, so.
Okay, sounds like a good plan.
Mr. Chair, I would ask the question of both Herb and Chuck is, who made that decision? Does the board of directors, do you guys, I don't know the answer to this. Do you have an annual meeting to where this gets
Well,
addressed?
we have a monthly meeting. Once a year, we have an accountant come in, analyze our income, and I guess the superintendent has been doing some checking with Rural Water as far as rate structure, because we always get questioned, why is our water and sewer so high?
Absolutely.
So just through him and ourselves checking into it, had Rural Water come out and explain to us how a lot of these rate structurings are set up.
And then how it comes to be as the board of directors, I'm to assume, I don't know, from Rich Prairie,
We
is
have-
who makes that
We
decision?
have 3 people on the board from Pierce, 2 from Genola, 2 from Buckman, so we have a 7 board.
Okay? And that's where the decision gets made?
Yes.
Right.
Okay, very good,
Yes.
thank you.
And based on you guys making that change, really nothing's gonna change. It's just that the less users have to pay less than the ones that pay more.
Right.
You know, so.
And so far, watching our numbers, our accountant will be coming in next meeting, and it looks like they're running about the same as far as income. We knew, and they warned us that it could go up or down, And a lot of people will try to conserve, get the lower rate, and the lady told us that after a while, people are creatures of habit, they go back to their old ways, and so it's an adjustment period.
And I appreciate that you're looking at, that you always try to be more current and up to date on the things, so I think that was a fabulous idea that you did there, so. Gentlemen, I don't think I did ask for a motion or a second. I'll leave them.
I don't know that we need one. It's not really necessarily an approval. It's more of a presentation.
Yeah, it's like a
Correct.
annual
Annual
report to
report,
keep
yep.
the
We come in
board
once a year.
informed.
Yep.
Because you are our oversight, you,
Yeah. Oh, I thought it said for action.
Well, and we're just lucky enough to get Chuck and
Yeah, I was
Herb in
just
to say
happy.
hi.
I like it when the two of you come here and talk about this. It's all right.
So there isn't, it's different than like the lid who was just here that has different statutory responsibilities in which you then have to approve things. This is a presentation of the annual budget and annual operations and opportunity to ask questions and get answers.
Yeah, I mean, everything that pertains to this was approved, 20 years ago.
Yep.
We went through basically that same process. in the
To
county.
become established and to
Right.
do all that, yep.
So it's a nice update. Anything else, gentlemen?
and
Yep.
you are aware that we had David Drong restructure our bonding this
Yep.
past year.
Yep.
And it took, after paying all the expenses, still gonna save the board about 30,000 a year, roughly 25 to 30,000.
Yeah. It all
over a
adds up, doesn't
13-year
it?
period, so that's a nice savings.
Yeah, it was very nice of you to help out there.
You just have to tell people quit using water, I'll save you more. All right. Anything else? All right, nice discussion. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate the update.
If you probably saw the numbers,
Yep. Yep.
we've got a pretty good reserve, 1.6 million or
Yep.
better, and
We do have a couple of projects
Keep her up
coming up.
there.
We got the North End Road with the county in 21, and then in 23, we're gonna be doing our water tower, so.
we've got enough put away for those, and
Doing what with it?
We'll have to have it shut down, re-welded, painted,
Okay. The maintenance of it, typical
maintenance.
They
maintenance.
do wear out them water towers,
Yep.
don't they?
Cool. Well, good job.
These
Thank
guys are a great example of fiscal management
Yes.
here in a local unit of government. Great job, fellas, and
I guess
the rest of your board too.
in 20 years now, we haven't had to come back for any money, and hopefully we can keep it that way.
All right.
You're on the right track.
Thank you very, very kindly.
Thanks, good to see you.
And I guess we have Deb for the sheriff's report.
He didn't deputize me, but I'm here, filling in for Sheriff Larson, and I'm trying to get to it here in a
Can you
second.
explain the pictures for us, please?
Okay. Hold on a minute.
You don't have to.
Okay. Sean's report, he included his monthly report. There wasn't anything earth-shattering in it or different. We can talk a little bit about, once I get to it here, the report. The rec weekend, he's talked about that before. It's an ongoing rec weekend. Rec stands for, I'm looking at Bradley out there. Encountering Christ, yes. And then the other picture, which I can't seem to get to right now, was a picture at Here's Freedom Fest with a gentleman who was there. He had military ties. I can't remember the exact details behind the story, but it was, we were well represented at the event, and everything went very, very well. And so Sean included his numbers for the month. If there's anything in particular that you have regarding questions, he certainly is available to answer those
Well, the
via
thing is,
email.
and I don't know if you, Jim, the STS, that's kind of number's gone up because I know he's been struggling to get sentenced to serve, and they had 30 available last month. That's,
At different days. I think that's a total of days that are available, but yes, it is nice to have folks that are in that are able to help with that. As you can see, the revenue for the month was substantially lower, and that's why this is hard to predict. We don't exactly know who's all going to be joining us in the facility at any given time, and so that ebbs and flows.
Well, and, Mr. Chair, a lot of our programs today, and we talk about this whenever the sheriff's here, a lot of our programs today are, we've got a social worker that's in the jail now. It's not to necessarily keep people right off the bat in jail, it's to get them through and then get them, let me use the word educated, when they get out, so they become viable or active citizens within the county.
Yes.
All right. Anything else, gentlemen, for Deb, or, again, I'm sure the sheriff would be available if we have any questions.
I could, make more up, but I think it'd be best if we ask him directly if you have a specific question.
All right, thanks, Deb.
Thanks, Deb.
Brad? Social services.
Morning, Mr. Commissioners.
Morning, Brad.
I do have some guests coming, so if we could move things around a little bit, I just asked Karen to come over, and then we have Rural Minnesota SEPA is gonna be our guest. Wondering if we could go to the last thing on my public health social services report, and that is the capital request versus starting with the
SNAP.
social service report.
Gotta pull that up, there it is.
Oh, and after car seats,
And
right?
after car seats, yep.
My goodness.
Yeah, so we did.
Okay.
All right, so as you might recall, I brought to planning last Tuesday a conversation around some technology needs, given our move to social services and public health co-locating. So currently, we use EIO board through Savants for tracking staff, so we know where they are if somebody calls. They have an add-on item which is called visitor management
Could you,
tool.
for the record, EIO?
I do not know what EIO stands for other than a song. So, but it's by Savant, so I don't remember what EIO
Okay.
actually stands for.
Okay.
So that's the acronym they use.
So I'm not the only one here.
No.
I don't know.
So we use that to track staff, so if clients are looking for them, the front desk knows where they are, we use it for safety, so if staff are out with clients and they don't come back, we have a way to track them.
It's a scheduling.
Yes. Well-
Scheduling software kind of, or reporting and scheduling software as far as whereabouts are. It's a self-reporting. It's
Yes.
not.
Yep. And so we would like to add on visitor management, so when clients come into our office, we are able to then notify staff, we're able to track our visitors, and collect data about how many folks come in and out of our organization. So that's
Because it's a, excuse me, Mr. Chair, electric in and out board.
Oh, thank you.
EIO. Thank you,
Electric.
Tabitha.
Wow.
It's electric.
Electronic,
Thought it was, maybe.
I knew that, I just didn't want to see.
Brad,
electronic.
Tabitha, you're the best.
She had Google at her fingertips. See, it would take a couple of years ago to figure that out. So the second technology tool is called PaperCut, and this is a software that we put on our server and allow staff to print from any copier. Because we're gonna be on 2 levels, staff are never quite sure where they might be. They might be downstairs and then have clients come, they hit print, they forget to get it. It also helps in terms of our accounting. And so worked with Amy on both of these to ensure that we could help become more organized and efficient as we look to co-locate. And we wanted to do this before we co-locate because they'll have a lot of work to do when we're ready to move. So working with Amy on getting these installed prior to our move. The third technology request is called Nessus, and this is a required software that helps us determine if our desktops are safe from viruses and other, other things that could cause us to share data we shouldn't. Because we deal with federal tax information, they're requiring us to scan our desktops. Amy would be able to use this for other security options as well. So again, I worked with Amy on this particular technology as well. And so I'm requesting a capital request for all 3. PaperCut will be paid 2/5 by public health and 3/5 by social services. EIO is gonna be paid for entirely out of the social service fund. Nessus is gonna be paid for out of social services fund balance. So that is my request here today.
Gentlemen, I'll ask for a motion and a second.
I'll
for
move
more
on that,
discussion.
Mr. Chair.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any more discussion?
Mr. Chair, we talked about this a lot, and I don't think that this should come as any surprise to this board or to any other board. This is technology. We knew that when we were going to co-locate both of these agencies, that there was going to be costs somewhere to make it all work. I think Brad's done a good job. His staff has done a good job in putting this together. I think at the end of the day, this will be a cost-saving measure.
And I know the answer, but I'll ask you anyway, Brad, is this a one-time fee?
All three, well, the paper cut is a one-time fee, EIO will be a one-time fee and then an annual maintenance agreement. And Amy was not sure about an ongoing cost for Nessus until she starts to work with the company on installation, so. But even with the visitor management, the upfront cost is more costly than the ongoing maintenance, so.
All right, thank you. Gentlemen, any more discussion? Not those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you. We will go back to the social service report now as our guests have arrived. So I'm going to grab a couple more chairs.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
And they can introduce
Yep, I will have them introduce themselves, and then we'll talk about two reports that we have, one about SNAP, and then one about rural Minnesota SEP, where our guests are from. So,
Okay.
who are you, young lady?
I am Karen Chudrowski. Good morning.
Morning, Karen.
I'm Brian Gopinski, with Rural Minnesota SEP over at the Career Force Center. I've met most of you and things, but we've had some transition in our agency. So Samantha Freilich,
Hello.
she's been a counselor with Rural Minnesota SEP for the last 4 years. She's worked with all of our dislocated worker programs, DWP, and dabbled in MFIP as well. So effective yesterday, she's the new team leader. I'm not going anywhere. I'm just office 30 miles to the north out of Brainerd. And I'll still work with the county with the contracts and the service agreements and this kind of stuff. But the local day-to-day contact will be Samantha now. So,
Is that a congratulations, I hope?
yes,
Thank you.
yep. So it's, I think it'll be a nice transition that we're looking forward to.
Great.
All right.
So as he said, they're a partner with us in our financial assistance program. So Karen's going to talk about SNAP first, which is the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. So,
Okay, as Brad said, we're here regarding SNAP, Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. Can you hear me okay? Gross income test is 130% if you have no elderly or disabled in your home. If you have elderly and disabled in your home, the gross income is 165% of the federal poverty guideline. Okay, and then how much do households receive in SNAP benefits? Now, these are the maximum amounts. If someone's getting general assistance of 203, of course, they'd be eligible for the 192. But we do take their income into consideration. We also take their shelter costs. They are deducted from their income. These are the maximum amounts they can get per month. Okay? Expedited SNAP. How many applications have we taken since August 1st of 17 through July 31st of 19? To be expedited, a household has to have income less than $150 in the month, $100 or less in liquid assets, or their income and their liquid assets have to be less than their shelter costs. Expedited means we have to issue those benefits within 24 hours.
Karen, are these new applicants or are these revolving applicants?
These are new apps.
Okay,
Yep.
so how many total do we have on SNAP? Do we know, or are you coming up to
We
that?
do, we're coming to that.
Okay, all right.
Yep. You know, it probably doesn't look like a lot, but when you look at it by month, it's quite a few expedited. Application activities, we have ADA programs, we have new apps, and we have re-apps. Re-apps are if they've been closed over 30 days, they have to reapply. So as you can see, it fluctuates quite a bit. Okay, here we have cases, comparison from July of 18 to July of 19. We have cases for the state of Minnesota, Morrison County. Then we have persons for the state of Minnesota and Morrison County. It has gone down. Cases have gone down by 51 in Morrison County for the year. 59 people less.
That's a good thing.
It is a good thing.
That's a good thing.
And then regional active cases. We show Morrison County. You can see it's gone down. Benton County, Most counties have gone down except for Mille Lacs in the food support. And then we have, every dollar spent on SNAP generates $1.70 in economic activity. As you can see, they cannot buy pet food, soaps, paper products, vitamins, household supplies. How much does SNAP cost? Well, the food benefits are 92.3%. Federal administrative cost is 0.4. Federal share of state admin is 7.3.
And I know you discussed this last year, whatever. They're issued a card.
Correct.
So if they go and they put pet food out, it's not gonna scan it, they will not be able to take that, correct?
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
How that does it, who knows? I don't know that is.
Yeah, it shows up, rejects it. EBT activity report, that is a report that shows if you're spending, using your card out of state. I print that once a month, go through it, and then I send it to our FPI. If FPI is our fraud prevention investigator, if they use that more than 30 days out of state, we end up closing them. So that's how we watch out of state. Any questions?
You know, as we talked about SNAP in the past, one of the things with SNAP and what they've found in terms of the evaluation of the program, a lot of the folks who use SNAP tend to use it locally. They don't have a lot of resources to travel far to go to Costco or Sam's Club, so they tend to shop more locally. The other thing that SNAP has done over the last few years is allow folks to use that EBT card at farmers markets, so they can buy healthier food. So they've done a few things to try and improve the health of folks who use SNAP. The one thing we don't have is like the age breakdown of SNAP, but a significant number are probably older adults.
Elderly or disabled, yeah.
So,
They don't get a lot, but when you don't have a lot of income coming in, $15 is a lot of money.
I call it the kicker program because it does. I think it really helps people just to kind of give them that boost to continue in their livelihood or
Right.
whatever, and
Yep.
eventually they try to, wean themselves off it, So to me, it's a great program.
so when folks come in and apply for financial assistance, most of the time we end up referring them to SEP to get them to work. And so we thought we would bring Brian here today to talk a little bit about rural Minnesota SEP, because we do contract with them out of our MFIP grant for employment services. And so I'll turn it over to Brian.
Okay. Do you have two or four?
They have all of the, so if you look on there, that's the order they will be in,
Okay,
so.
I apologize for the late ads. I missed a few things. So, this first one is the participation rate, and we're starting with the worst look and the worst, touch of employment services is in terms of a graph that we could have. This participation rate, when we look at it, and just going to June when it says 28% is ugly, it's frustrating, maybe it's embarrassing, but this doesn't tell a very good picture. First of all, with rural Minnesota SEP and the Career Force Centers, we look at everything in terms of hours worked. The counties, we looks at it with dollars spent, okay? We've been trying to get these two married somehow, working with the state. They've been back and forth with, are we gonna look at participation rates? Aren't we? What are we gonna do? The most frustrating part about this is when we look back at the last 2 years, if we just pick on the last 2 years, the work that's been done between the counselors at rural Minnesota SEP and Karen and her staff, and these numbers still don't necessarily move. Now, part of the picture is our economy. There's some stuff in there you're gonna see as we go through these. But no matter how hard you work with some of it, you can't make this number move. They just don't match up. And,
Mr. Chair, Brian, is this participation of unemployed participating in the functions and striving to get to work, or
Yeah.
participation of whom and in what?
It's anything and everything. It could be, working with us, recording work hours spent,
work training hours.
But it's for the unemployed population.
Just a clarification, this is actually only clients who are on financial assistance
Oh, okay.
programs.
All right, so that's your total.
So for
Okay.
instance, if an employer closes, they are not in these numbers.
In this- okay,
Unless
this is
they've come in and applied for financial
Who
assistance.
we're working with in Karen's unit and who's participating
Yep.
with you. Okay, all
Yep.
right.
And they are measured on the participation rate by the state.
Okay.
Or we are, actually, and then we hold them accountable.
All right, thank you.
So, I don't wanna blow past this one, but I do, because
We got better.
we have a lot better things to say, and it's really exciting. And, there's graphs that show, more to the work that's being done every day between the county and rural Minnesota SEP. This next one is simply a current snapshot. So when this thing was run, we look at the amount of people not working, the amount of people on FSS or family stabilization, being 25, not working 20, and then 21 working, and then 8 may be in an education component, and then there's currently 3 of them on work training. Our push for the last 2 years has been to spend less on supportive services and more on work experience, work training, and education, be it short-term training, certifications of different sorts, or up to the 2-year education component. Rural Minnesota SEP will pay up to 2 years for education and training for our clients. And
I'm assuming that they have to have an income qualification, right? It's like somebody that's very well off, you're not gonna pay for their.
Right, little to no income.
Right.
Yeah, that's, and they get right down there, and so limited financial resources are one issue, but as you'll see, what becomes more of a barrier actually is our maybe lack of transportation, certainly lack of daycare. And everyone's, we're all talking about it, those are real issues today, but, so if I can move to this third one, there's one of the late ads here, this is a year-to-date, this is 2019 year-to-date. And, these are all folks that have closed out, okay? So, the biggest chunk there is the employment and income at 52%. Again, the economy helps with this, and the low-hanging fruit, so to speak, has found work. They've gotten out there and found jobs. There's jobs. As of this morning, there's 145 jobs on Minnesota Works alone within 25 miles of Little Falls. There's jobs out there. Unfortunately, there's jobs out there that people still can't get to because of transportation or daycare issues. But over half so far this year have closed out due to employment. A quarter of them with administrative separation, that can be anything from not complying, not filling out household report forms, just they're out of compliance. And so they separate based on those reasons. And then we've got eligibility and relocation. There's always some that, move to another county. We have some county hoppers. If they don't like what they hear here, they might move to another county. And sometimes we get those from other counties too. But so this is just a year-to-date with who's closed out. And then the next one is just a current caseload status year-to-date. And what it's looked like, and breaking it down, 26% working. We still have 21% on FSS. The part I like to point out with the FSS is I've only been with rural Minnesota SEP 9 years, and when I first started here, we looked at an FSS person necessarily that we really can't put that person to work. That is so untrue and so ridiculous. Today we have 10% FSS that are working.
Brian, what is FSS?
Family stabilization,
They have a reason, either it's medical, mental health, they have some reason that they can't work.
yep. It's usually, it's a documented barrier of some type. And, so sometimes you get that person comes in and yep, they have a doctor's note that says they can't work. Well, you sit down and the more you get to know and learn and things like this, it's like, well, really? I think you can work. And so that's the push. And the nice part about the partnership is I don't think Karen's opinion or idea is much different than ours at SEP in terms of getting people to work. And So FSS may be FSS, but there's a lot of people on FSS that can still work. So with this chart, there's some data down below, and I don't want to bore you with data, but these are some different places that folks have gone to work from MFIP. And I also want to just mention that the FSS clients that have gone to work is 7. It's not a big number, but when we look at a total caseload and you got 7 FSSers that are out there working, that's exciting for us. And it's a lot better than the old days of 0 or 1 or maybe 2 on a good year. So, but these are just some different things I wanted to show as far as the current caseload. This last page, I know it's just data, but this is what's going on right now. So we're looking at this FSS thing, and of any of the MFIP clients that are not working, these are just some different activities that they're enrolled into. We used to not look at the NCRC as a viable solution for somebody on MFIP or DWP. NCRC is a National Career Readiness Certification, and it is an indicator for employers of how many job skills a person can learn. They're using it in schools. We have some colleges out there now in the Midwest who are giving free college credit for students who come out of school with the NCRC. If I'm an employer and I'm looking at a candidate and I see that they scored a gold or even a platinum on their NCRC, that indicates that that person is capable of learning over 90% of life work skills to do a job. So just for an example, a registered nurse should come in at a silver or above. So if we get somebody, and it's so exciting when somebody from FSS rolls through our NCRC and they come out with a gold. It's a confidence booster, it's a morale thing, it's exciting, and it's good, positive energy. So that's why we're pushing the NCRC more and more over at the Career Force Center. And then that may be the only certification that they have to offer on their resume. They may not have any work history at all, but if they have an NCRC and we can help sell that NCRC to an employer, the employer usually looks at it and says, wow, maybe you've just had some hard luck, but you have capabilities, you're intelligent, you can do this, you excel in math and sciences, you know, because it pulls all that information. Okay?
And we have had a number of MFIP that have received platinum certificates, which was very cool to see.
Mr. Chair, is that a written computerized test or what, both? What is it?
It's computer, it's a 3-hour exam.
Wow.
It's 3 modules, math and reading, and then, what'd you call it?
Locating information.
Locating
or graphic
information.
literacy.
Yeah, and locating information is kind of it's an interesting term, but it's everything from business documents. If you send out a business document that's got 4 graphs in it, it might ask you to find data on the 3rd graph. You know, tell us what percentage of the caseload were MFIP in 2012. And it shows that that person has the reasoning skills and the ability to peg down through that material and find it. So those are skills, those, you know, that an employer may look for. So, and then math is pretty straightforward, and then reading is the reading and comprehension piece. So.
And it's a version of the NCRC test, so that's the actual umbrella, or not, I'm sorry, the ACT.
ACT.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Yep. So just, you know, I won't read through these, but one success story, just one I have to share, and I apologize to pick on you, Commissioner Jelinski, but, you know, I have to, because whenever you've been at the Career Force Center, you've always been interested in these things.
I am.
But we have one of the clients who, she's finishing up, she'll finish this semester and then next semester with a hydrology degree. Bachelor's degree in hydrology. And I'll tell you what, she has just been tenacious and chased it, and we've been able to fund it. And she already has a job offered to her. She's done internships, and that's, you know, that's an MFIP client that maybe 5, 6, 8 years ago, someone would have said, I don't think we're gonna spend, you know, we're gonna send this person to school. So that's why we're pushing the way we're pushing.
Good, I'm glad.
So,
I love it.
so anyway, that's the last, the graph, and then the data to support some of that. And Brad and Karen, thanks for letting me get those in. I apologize again.
Gentlemen, any more comments, questions?
I just have one more comment again. You know, you look at the individuals who come through applying for financial systems, they don't have a good work history. They're young parents, they maybe not have completed their high school education. They've had barriers probably throughout their life and trauma throughout their life. And so it's important that we get them to the workforce center, start to show them some success, and get them in the job market. So it's been a good partnership.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Awesome.
Should we finish off with public health?
We can, yes, I think Melissa and Cindy are here. Karen took your chair. So one of the things that we do at Public Health, and we want to continue to let the community know that we do, is a car seat program. We want to make sure kids are safe. And so Melissa is one of 2 car seat technicians we have, and so she's going to come and talk a little bit about the program and what we've done, so.
All right, hello, I'm Melissa Harris. I'm a registered nurse and a child passenger safety technician here at Public Health. I've been doing this about 2 years now. So we'll start out with some facts. Did you know, according to the U.S. Department of Transportation, 3 out of 4 car seats are installed incorrectly? So that 75% of our car seats are installed incorrectly. That's partially due to all the different manufacturers out there and all the different gadgets they keep coming up with. They're really complicated. And traffic crashes are the leading cause of death in children. Most of these deaths are preventable. If we put children in car seats, it reduces their risk of injury by 71 to 82% and reduces the risk of death by 28% when we compared to just using a seatbelt alone. So we have 2 big goals of our program. The first one is education. We provide education to parents, grandparents, foster parents, basically anybody transporting children. We're hoping in the future to be able to teach a 3-hour course that's required for foster parents and for daycare providers. Right now the state has kind of locked down how many slots they have open to teach that CARS class. So we're hoping they'll open some of those up so we can help educate our community instead of them going to Long Prairie or St. Cloud or Brainerd. And then we also have classes that we teach at ECFE or local parent groups kind of doing outreach in the community. And I also get several calls a week or people stopping in asking for advice on how to install their car seat or which car seat their child should be in for their age. And our second goal is to provide good quality seats to those that are in need. So our the training that I had to go to was a 3-day course over in Alexandria, very intense training. I'm certified for 2 years, and I have to get 6 hours of continuing education every 2 years to maintain that certificate, as well as install 5 different seats correctly for my superiors. And then we get reimbursed through South Country Health Alliance to offset those training costs. So,
Mr. Chair, Melissa, can I ask you a question? On the previous slide, you talked about being able to offer that course locally for foster parents and daycare. That's an interesting concept. It certainly seems like that would be beneficial to those that we serve. So what type of process are you going through to try to do that? Or I assume it's the association or the state as a whole, or what?
I had to apply to work with the Develop program, and I was accepted to that. So then I reached out to the Department of Transportation, and she said, we don't have any slots available. We feel that there's enough trainers out there in the areas that we don't need to have anybody else go through and become certified to do that. So
do they have certain areas that have that? Delegated authority might be the wrong term, but that's what it seems like it's, or is it just, you don't know?
I'm
Okay.
not sure when, and she just said as soon as people start retiring or dropping off that list is when they'll start opening up people to be able
Well, I'm
to
glad
teach
you're
that.
pursuing
So,
it.
yeah, trying
That's
to.
beneficial to those that we serve as a whole. So
Yeah.
it would certainly help, I think.
Yeah.
So thank you for
Yeah.
trying and keeping that up.
I had to wait until I was certified for a year in order to pursue it, so we're just kind of finding all this information out right now. So, Yeah, so on average, before I started this program, we were giving out about 70 car seats through our programs a year. Last year, we did 90 seats through South Country Health Alliance, so that was quite a big increase. And then we did 1 seat through our grant program.
Since you're talking about giving out car seats as a grandparent, why do they put expiration dates on these darn things? It's like you're in a 10-year-old car, the seatbelts, they don't have an expiration on them. And here, my daughters and they will not, grandpa, that seat's expired, no, you can't put them in there.
The plastic, they're saying, can become brittle with like the high temperatures that are in the car or the extreme lows that we have here in Minnesota. So they only want to guarantee them for so many years. They are starting to make those expiration dates go from 5 to 6 years all the way up to 10 years now. So they're starting.
10-year ones cost $600-700.
They cost a lot of money. I know, I'm a parent.
And I'm a grandparent, and
I
I
know.
got 6 of
We
them.
might have other ideas about why they expire car seats, but we won't go there.
Yeah.
I wasn't even bring that one up, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a great,
thinking.
I can't say gimmick, but, you know, that's, no.
Yeah.
Safety.
I know, and they guilt us into buying new ones
That's
and
what they
making us
do.
think if we don't
Yep.
have a new one, we're,
You
yeah,
wanna keep your grandchild safe?
yeah.
Yeah.
Because even on the social service side, we buy car seats, because we have them in case we have to transport foster kids, and so we're having to turn them over.
Where do these car seats go? They end up in the
We don't
landfills,
have
then?
a local recycling place that we can take them, so the landfill, we just have to cut the harnesses and disassemble them, and they go to the landfill, unfortunately.
Enough of
We,
that.
we actually did trade them in for gift cards at Target or Walmart, so this last
We'll
time.
take old ones.
So they will take them.
Sure.
Yeah, they do that
Yeah,
like once a year.
yeah.
Just did it. So, here in 2019, I'm actually over 58 seats now through South Country Health Alliance. Had quite a bump in the last couple of weeks since I submitted this. And then we've done 1 seat through UCare now, which is kind of new to us. So our 2 funding sources right now are South Country Health Alliance. They provide the seat for us at no cost, and then they reimburse us $105 per car seat appointment. So each car seat appointment lasts about 45 minutes to an hour long. And then UCare is our second funding source. We're not quite sure what the reimbursement rate is because I just did my first car seat through UCare, so they will be billing that really.
Mr. Chair, Melissa, if I might interrupt you, and if I'm getting ahead of you, just
That's okay.
cut me off, I'm good with that. On any given day, how many people stop in to say, I have a little baby and I don't know what to do, and you have to say, I do, I have a seat or a car seat for you?
It's usually a couple a week at least, that I get a phone call, or I have somebody that's in WIC, and we'll
Yep.
go and talk to them, or one of the MCH clients, so.
But you also take grandparents to come
We
in
do.
too.
I have a lot of grandparents that come in, so it's kind of fun.
So we have kind of a stockpile, and probably the wrong word, but I'm using it, a stockpile of new car seats at Public Health that are available.
Just through South Country Health Alliance and UCare, if they're on those 2 products, and then we have some grant seats as well. But we need to make sure that, we're not just, we only have a select few of the grant seats. We got 4 this last year through the Department of Transportation, so we kind of make sure that those people that request those are truly in need of a good car seat.
So then, to kind of follow that up, let's assume that I or anyone, doesn't make any difference who it is, our Mr. Chair, our grandfather over here, be it who it might be, income level, be it what it might be, doesn't really know how to make this work. You're available to everyone
Yep.
to fit a car seat, if that's the right word,
Yeah.
or set it up?
I've helped employees too, so.
Well, I think that's
Yeah.
wonderful.
Yeah, it's a great
I think
resource.
it's great.
So even though we can't
Yeah.
purchase or give them a car seat, we can still educate them.
And which
Yeah.
is wonderful.
And I'll
She's
give
not
them-
available every morning though, or every time the grandparents are taking the it's, hopefully they learn from the first time.
Yeah,
And
it
I
is-
get that.
It is fun to see how the car seats are moving around the car seat while they're buckled in, and
Yeah.
because the grandparent doesn't know what they're doing, to show them and empower them how to feel
Absolutely.
confident and know that we saved one more child potentially, so.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, I think that's a core, health, safety, and welfare kind of component of what
Without
we
a
do in
doubt.
terms of the prevention. So
Absolutely.
it's a big deal. It's nice to see that happening.
Well, and really this came about because of a tragedy. In Moorhead about 10 years ago, 12 years ago, when a daycare provider or a foster parent was transporting kids that were not buckled. And so as a result, they've really tried to make this more of an organized, educational, supportive for parents, grandparents, daycare providers, foster parents. And so really allowing more individuals to be educated about the importance of car seats. And I know she has a video at the end, a short little video to show why car seats are important, but
So we talked a little bit about the grant seats. We were given 4 of those this year, so sometimes I'll get a call from St. Gabriel's. They have a new mom that doesn't have a car seat, isn't on medical assistance. We're able to give her a car seat through that grant program. All right, so why do car seats work? They work because they, first of all, keep the child in the car, prevent them from flying out the window or whatnot. They also protect their vital parts of their body, their head, neck, and spine, and it spreads the crash force across the largest portion of their body, which is their shoulders and their hips. That's where the harnesses are. So we need to always make sure that we're choosing the right seat, and there's a lot of things we take into consideration when we're choosing the right seat. We take into consideration their age, their height, their weight, how mature they are, all those things. So like I said earlier, the seats are getting more and more complicated, so it's always an evolving thing to learn new parts and features of each car seat. So here in Minnesota, our child passenger restraint laws state that any child under the age of 8 must ride in a federally approved car seat or a booster seat unless they are 4'9". Safety seats must be installed correctly according to the manufacturer's instructions. The law also states that children under the age of 1 and 20 pounds need to be in a rear-facing car seat. Although we encourage parents to keep their children rear-facing until they're at least 2 or older, just because it provides more support to their head, neck, and spine. This law applies to all motor vehicles that were originally equipped with seat belts. So next, we'll have a little video, and this is.
I don't know that we will, because I
Oh,
don't
it
know
doesn't
that
work.
we knew it
Okay.
was a video
Oh,
embedded
okay.
into here, and so
Sorry.
I don't think I can, do you know, is it a YouTube or something?
Yeah,
along
it was
those
a
lines?
YouTube thing.
Let me, do you know what it's called?
No.
Okay,
I wonder if I actually, no, I think, let me see.
It might
what-
be called Why We Do What We Do.
Hang
might
on, I
not
can
be.
actually send you the,
yeah, because I just,
Sorry.
that's okay, I'm like, we don't have a link, I don't
Sorry,
think
my
it's
fault.
embedded.
On our end, it just started when you pushed the picture, so I
Yes.
don't know if it.
They're gonna show us why we
Okay.
can't be an expired.
should be the last slide on the, what I just sent you, and it should work.
Technology.
Let me just,
Hope it's still sending, because it's got a video clip. There.
So
Went.
It's gotta go up.
give me just 1 minute here and we'll do that, if you wanna.
Well, any
Because it is
questions?
interesting, it's only about 30 seconds or so,
Yep,
so.
It's just a quick clip and
While
it,
she's trying to pull up, any questions or
Yeah,
comments at all? Getting good information.
You know, questions or comments, Mr. Chair, this is probably one of the most wonderful resources I think that there are. I mean, children are children no matter
Sorry,
what.
send it to me.
Babies to children, and to have someone that, I don't know any of this stuff because I don't put car seats, I don't have any little children. But to have someone in the technology we live in today, to be able to, I can go here, I can find you, and you can show me. I don't think that we can put a value on that.
It is, and as Commissioner Winter said, I mean, back in the day when we had kids, putting them in the car seats were not a big deal, and my first 2 kids, we got a car seat from the hospital to borrow.
Right,
Now,
yeah, exactly,
you
borrow.
They're
don't get
expired.
that. Now you don't get that, and they have lots of, it's like bells and whistles and,
yes,
Yeah, you
definitely.
need a engineering degree just to
Yeah.
operate the
Some of
darn
them you
things.
do.
all right, here we go.
All right, so in this clip, you'll see that one child's in a car seat, the other one is not restrained at all. So the child that's not restrained is flying through the car, hitting their head, their neck, their spine, probably has a brain injury, a spinal cord injury, causing this child to be paralyzed, has possibly even caused this child to die because of the severe internal injuries. Where the child that was in the car seat probably has just some bruising where the harness was, so
Do you know what speed this was done at?
I don't know what, I think 30 miles
So that's not very fast when you look at it. For those of us who've been on a tractor and hit a rock at, 3, 4, 5 miles an hour, you think about that, and now you multiply that times 6, and,
I
yeah.
always wondered why
Car
my
seats are
mom-
important.
I always wondered why my mom and dad told me I didn't have to be seated.
So that's what I have this morning. Any other questions for Melissa or Cindy?
Very nice, thank you.
Thank you.
Again, thank you very much.
All right, that's all I have.
I think
Thank
what
you.
we'll do is we'll do one more, since we have our county attorney here, let's bring him here, and then we'll take a 5 after that, or 10.
All right.
Good morning, Brian.
Morning, Brad.
Good morning, members of the board. So an attorney in my office recently submitted their resignation to me, and so I'm here today seeking to rehire for that position. It's an attorney 1 position, and it's an attorney in my office who would handle primarily child protection work and misdemeanor work. It's a very important position in my office, and I'm hoping to replace that person as soon as I possibly can. So I'm seeking that authorization from the board.
Gentlemen, ask for a motion, a second for more discussion.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion, a second, any more discussion? Do you need this position?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, because now I don't have to ask that question.
I do. It's a vital position in my office.
All right, any more questions?
And it simply is a replacement.
Right.
All right, any more discussion? If not, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Enjoy the week.
Thank you, Brian.
All right, let's take 10.
We hear each other, Jeff.
All right, you know that one. We'll take it.
Oh, it's not doing anything.
So they can come when they arrive because we're running. So, according to this, we, so. Ouch, ouch.
My feeling exactly.
Gonna get that job done this week?
What?
When's gonna get that job done?
Oh, I hope. I think they should. I mean, they're going up against the Tigers. They've got, so there are 2 series left, are the Tigers and the Royals, so hopefully they can.
You can't win,
I have a very bad feeling about how it's gonna turn out when we go to the playoffs and face the Yankees and the Astros.
and maybe, playing the Yankees and always losing, you know, it's like a stigma. And everybody says, oh, they should play the Yankees because the Yankees are like, questionable pitching, and the Yankees could do the same. But I think we should keep an eye on the firm belief that distribution dominates the game. Yeah, I think they do well. They've done well when they play Houston. I'd like to see them. Yeah, just give the option, so I think it all goes on the column. If they can get out of the ball, I think they can, even though Houston's very, appreciate it. Yeah, no problem. But if they can get on a roll, I think they can win. Then after that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Can you ready to explode, or say the bladder?
Bladder, kidneys, the whole thing.
Everything. So I was gonna poke fun at you. I says, what do you mean you didn't have, didn't you have 2 little monkeys over at Gov-"
But I never didn't have to transport them at all.
Oh, you didn't have to do it at all?
Nope, not one bit.
Okay, hey Greg, good to see you, sir. Sure.
I just making a joke in Christmas here, Dan, who's drink again, but have you taken the time to read your new city comp plan, the Little Falls City Comprehensive Plan?
Well, the city of Little Falls is comprehensive plan?
Yes.
No, I've never looked at it.
It's
ever.
been offered in draft to all the townships, so you might check with you. I think we're in the same township, you and I.
Okay, are you talking the Little Falls Township, or are you
Yes.
talking the
No,
city?
Little Falls City.
Okay, because
City of Little Falls.
but do we have much to say about
Well,
that?
as a citizen, you know.
Right, I understand that.
It's a big deal because it directly affects your township you live in. They have very aggressive annexation plans, and not to mention the fact that the plans that they want to do right here in the city are beyond, I mean.
Oh, no, I'm gonna,
And they'll tell you, that, well, these are just suggestions, you don't have to do them all. The
I don't
problem
like-
is, the green steps would have required, had we allowed them to put, I shouldn't say we allowed, had it gotten through, number 6 would have required all those to become ordinances. You need to look at what they want to do
because,
to
you know,
your city.
when you talk about annexation, now that I understand, that is sometimes a quandary, as they say, you know, the fact that they can come in and annex your property, because I'm in the city of Royalton, I'm right on the verge, on the edge, once they're starting to expand, but as far as these rules and regulations, still, that is implemented by the city council, not by the citizens,
Right,
correct?
right, exactly. And most states put protective language in there to allow the residents of the annexed areas to actually have a say in it,
Yeah.
plus the township board. Minnesota doesn't do that. very
Right,
easily.
no, I know that, yeah.
It's something you really need to look at, when you see what they have planned for your city, how they wanna put trails between all the schools and all the parks, how they wanna do away with the limitations on height, and they wanna go to high-rise apartments, bring in an increase of 34% population, and you know where they're from. If you read their
Really?
diversity clauses, please read it.
Well, see, I'll have to take.
For your own?
I'll browse through that, because I look at it this way, I'm responsible for the county, okay?
Yeah,
The people are elected, because you elected me or whatever to
Yeah.
take care of that, but the city people, I'm assuming, should be responsible.
well then why did they
Elected.
give drafts to your township?
There's a lot of, well,
They
give-
want your township guys to see.
but they want to look at, but the townships can also, they're elected, they can vote it down too.
They can to an extent, and that's what we're working on right now. What township are you in?
I'm in Bellevue.
Okay, some of the townships are working on protective language, to put in their own
Sure.
comp plan, to halt some of this
Some
stuff.
of them, I don't even think some townships have comp plans. I don't
No,
think
you're right,
Bellevue does not.
because they're
have-
fairly expensive. Now, Sourcewell will come in and help pay for it if you allow them to.
You have a grand for Sourcewell, but, I mean, it's got,
Well, if you
but that's
read the
another
stuff
story,
they do.
that's another story.
I'm just urging you, please, to read it, because it has a huge effect on you, your children, your future, huge effect. You gotta read it.
Yeah.
You have to.
Well, like you say, I don't read it word for word because I have a hard time retaining stuff that I don't feel it's important. And you're saying it's important, you know, again, and it could very well be. And that's why we all have different opinions, you know, so.
Well, see, most states have outlawed this kind of language. It's called sustainable language. Many states have outlawed this stuff. Even the states that allow it, like Missouri. Missouri
Right.
allows it, but they also allow huge amount of citizen input
Right.
to override it. They don't do that in Minnesota. One size fits all, you take 100%.
So that's the legislators and all that, that's ones that can vote it one way or the other, is that what you're telling me? Legislators can say, okay, we're no longer gonna allow this in the state.
Yes, they can actually. Especially at the state level, they tried it in 2010. Dave Brown, Senator Dave
Yep.
Brown, Representative Durenberger attempted to put through such a law modeled after other
Sure.
states. Well, it never got it. When the Republicans didn't even take time to look at it.
Yeah, and that's.
It can be stopped.
It has to be, what's the word I'm looking, but everybody has to be a kind of on agreement with it, you know, so like you're taking it personally, seriously, that, and there's nothing wrong with that, but those.
This has those states.
Well, but again, Durenberger, well, he's a Democrat.
No, he's
Well,
not.
he was
Oh,
a
Durenberger, no, he's a
I thought he
Republican.
was, well, he's no longer, but I thought he was a Democrat.
He's one of them that's kind of right on.
Oh, but he went as a Democrat, because I remember that. He was for trails, that guy was.
Yeah.
Any trails, but now you take, in Brown, but now we have different
Not
type.
Durenberger, Newberg.
Newberg,
I'm
yeah, I
sorry.
thought you said
Newberg.
Nuremberg. Oh,
It was
okay, yeah.
Newberger and Brown.
Okay.
Thanks for correcting me.
Yeah, I was sitting there going, okay, well, maybe I didn't know, but whatever. So, but yeah, the difference in who we elect down there, thank goodness we have separate parties, one in Senate, one in legislature, because, but yeah, I'll have to take a vague look at that and just to see, you know, what you're looking at. Could you send that to me? Yes?
I
no?
sure can.
Send
yes.
it to me in a small format if you can, or
Well,
highlight it.
it'll come through on what do you call it, a PDF. type
Okay,
file.
sure.
So it's a fairly long one.
it is,
But a lot of pages you can skip until it
Oh,
comes
yeah.
to,
I
the ones
looked-
like with the graphs.
Right.
Until it comes to the annexation, you'll wanna see.
That's the one I'll look
areas
at. I'll
that
look,
they're-
is it got, index shows what page?
It shows the countywide, it shows the countywide. where
But
they
let's say
want
it's
to expand
50
into.
pages, does it say annex is on page 30 through 40?
Oh.
That's what I'm talking
you mean
about.
for more, you mean for
Like the
more
glossary.
exploration.
Oh, no, just so we can get to it quicker rather than try to browse through it, try to find it. But that's fine.
I'm not sure about that.
You shoot that to
Because
me.
there's like 100 and some pages.
Yeah, that's what I said, so, hey, I have people in the county, they call me up, this is, and I says, do you read, because in my business, the contracts are so long, and they're small print, and no one understands them, see? So unless you have an attorney, you hire somebody, you don't read this, because you, and here's my philosophy with that too.
Randy, did you get your break?
Yes, I did, thank you. But I say, yeah, as far as, you know, interpretation, you can interpret it one way, I can interpret it one. So guess what, then you get an attorney involved.
Right.
You know what I've done.
You-
But other than
you're
that, so
right,
how
there's so
things
much.
been going for you this
Extension,
summer?
yep.
Well, pretty good. I
And
really
like I
can't.
told you, I watched your daughter on Channel 5, so she looks like she's enjoying herself.
She is, she really likes it.
I was just gonna say, you
Some
have
people-
really beautiful
Is that your
time,
only
Jack.
child or no?
No, she's the third, she's the youngest.
Okay,
Like,
all right.
They have two young kids at home, so I don't know how Allison, they do have a nanny.
Okay.
Are you connected to secure or what, or the public or
Her
the?
husband,
Doesn't grandpa nanny once in a while?
the one that lives down there.
But this
in the
grandpa
cities.
here.
Well, a little when they come up here.
Didn't know he was gonna
You
take a break.
In fact, I do spend a lot of time with that little girl.
We never know.
See, my wife, she just retired, and she goes down there
Yeah,
once a
it's
week.
like, then I have to, like, every time I go
Because she never had it when she was working, they'll do that, so now she's
Really?
like down there, just loving the grandchildren.
But I think it's because I'm
Well,
not,
Katie goes down about 3 or 4 times, well, we go a lot.
Sure.
But 3 or 4 times a year, she goes down there for like a week at a time,
Yep.
when the nanny's gone, or when they got some extra help, you know.
I can't dig.
And it is a blast.
Yeah, and well, and I say that I would bring out the jam cards.
My problem
We don't need to go the
$700.
Oh, for, if you want those, that go 10 years for expiration, you hang
An
back.
eminent domain question.
I know it.
They go out as many.
Property owner's like, can they
So
force
you
me to do
pass
it?
them down, but if you have a 10-year-old and a newborn, well, now you need 3 or 4, that's another story. Talk to you later, Sue. Get that to me. Get that to me. Take care.
That thing that was in his eye or in his
Oh my God, it was
All, yeah?
way long a time ago, and we didn't know how we'd be able to work physically. About
physically like staffing
Alright.
or.
physically like in the building,
So how long should we let Blaine go?
actual
No more.
driveway.
It's been 12 minutes. Yep.
Thank you.
Do we have someone here from the extension? Come on up. We'll get, he'll, I
He'll
gavel
get the
him.
hint.
He'll be okay.
Good morning.
Good morning.
You probably want to pull your microphone down a little bit. There you go.
Sorry, I'm short.
You're fine.
Well, I am not Samantha Barron. I'm Stephanie Hakes. I'm punting for Sam today, so she had a class she had to attend, so. Just want to give you a brief report. I'm also, Becky typically does the report in September to report out on the fair. She was not able to attend, but if you have any questions, please feel free to stop in the extension office and check in with her. It was a wonderful fair, so hopefully you were all able to attend at least one day out there, and but it was a great week. So Sam has been very busy over the summer. A couple projects she wanted me to present on was, one is the Super Shelf project, which She has a couple of pictures highlighted there. It was a $4,000 grant that our SNAP Ed program was able to give the Morrison County Food Shelf. And with that money, it was, they were able to repaint, restructure their food shelf, so it was a little bit easier for the clients to get around. They purchased some new chairs for their waiting area, which hadn't been purchased for quite a while. Some baskets to make, they're trying to get a lot more fresh fruits and vegetables in there for the clients to be able to take. So some baskets and ways to display those items, which would make it more appealing to take them.
I've heard nothing, Mr. Chair, I've heard nothing but good on this change.
Great.
It's just been a real welcome addition, I think.
That's wonderful. There's some signage that you'll see there too that they were able to purchase with the grant. They work on their spending habits and what they're purchasing, they're procuring with the food shelf dollars, hopefully to be able to decrease the overall budget of the food shelf as well, and getting healthier items to the clients. That's kind of the overall goal of that project. And Sam really loved doing it, and like you said, Mr. Jelinski, that they've had a lot of good response from the clients with that as well. So that's a great project in the area. Another one is Start Strong, which is University of Minnesota Extension curriculum that was developed by an extension educator in the south part of the state. And it provides a 6-week class to in-home daycare providers that serve a limited income families, typically Head Start daycare providers. There's 6 providers going through this first course in Morrison County, and they work on nutrition and food skills to help those providers, serve fresh, more healthier options in their daycares. They also provide nutrition education to give to the parents as well. So it's not just for the providers themselves, but also for the families that they serve. So that's been very welcome. They're on their 3rd week, I think, and hoping to do another one after the winter. Also some upcoming work. Sam will be in Lincoln, Lindbergh, SG Knight, and Swanville this year, teaching nutrition education to the 3rd grade with their Go Wild curriculum, which focuses on increasing fruits and vegetables for the 3rd graders. So that's always such a fun curriculum. They're in the schools. She sees those kids over and over again then when she's in the schools, and they always tell her how they're eating their fruits and vegetables, so that's a wonderful thing. So, any questions?
Again, it's always good information. You're keeping yourself hopping usually.
Yes.
You
did a
look at
great
almost
job.
every day
Thank
of the
you.
month of the year is full for you guys.
Yeah, we've got a lot of things going on at Extension, so feel free to stop in and say hi. We're just up the stairs. So.
You know, and Mr. Chair, I should just comment that there's an awful lot of stuff here about the fair, and the fair, to me personally, is all about kids. Not necessarily all about 4-H, but all about kids.
Yeah.
And, the livestock that is brought to our Morrison County Fair is bursting at the seams. I mean, those buildings are filled virtually to capacity with the animals. And
Yeah.
I think that's just a credit to Extension. It's a credit to our 4-H kids. A lot of participation, a lot of work that goes into that. So
Yeah, Becky and
everyone,
Gloria do a
thank you.
wonderful job. They're amazing, so, yep. All right, thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, auditors report.
Good morning, Chelsea.
Good morning, Chelsea.
Good morning.
Good morning. So this morning I have something that comes to you annually. I have the agreement and a resolution. The agreement is between Morrison County and the Eastern Morrison County Four-Wheeler Club, and then the resolution is to sponsor them for the state fiscal year 2020.
So we can do both of them together, so.
I'll move on that, Mr. Chair.
All right,
Second.
any more discussion? Not those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
And next, I'm asking to pay the bills. A motion for warrants.
Mr. Chair, I'll move the payment of all the bills.
All right, I need a second.
Second.
Any more discussion? This will be a roll call. If not, Commissioner Jelinski?
Aye.
Commissioner Blaine?
Aye.
Commissioner Lemire?
Aye.
Myself is aye, motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good
Thanks,
day.
Chelsea.
Thanks, you guys.
Thank you, Chelsea.
Yep.
Steve, Public Works.
Good morning, Steve.
Good morning. Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board.
Good morning.
Morning.
2 items for your consideration this morning. The first relates to our intersection on the west side by the Public Works Department, 9th Avenue Northwest and Paul Larson Memorial Drive. Both are county roads within the city of Little Falls. This intersection sees a lot of traffic on its own, about 1,000 vehicles in each direction daily when it's not under detour. Oftentimes, though, there are situations where detours are applied. It's currently under detour because of the construction taking place on Trunk Highway 27. Whenever there's work at the BNSF crossing on Trunk Highway 27, this intersection becomes a part of a detour when they cross at 9th Avenue and bring them down to Paul Larson Drive to get across the bridge. What occurs when this happens is it becomes a trunk highway. It becomes under the jurisdiction of the state, and the state then turns it into a 4-way stop. Normally, when it's under our jurisdiction, we have it as just a 2-way stop. Paul Larson Drive is stopped and 9th Avenue is through. But because of this inconsistency in and what we're trying to do is be uniform traffic control devices. You don't want to be changing situations consistently, and that's what's occurring here. With the traffic volumes at what they are and how this intersection sees traffic from time to time, it's my recommendation that it would be better to be a 4-way stop than a 2-way, the way we currently have it. And so the resolution that I'm requesting the board to adopt would be that we'd establish this and turn it into an all-way stop permanently. It won't be under our jurisdiction until the detour comes off, but at that time we'd properly install the stop signs and maintain it the way the state is running it now.
Gentlemen, I'll ask for a motion and a second.
Motion to approve, Mr. Chair.
Second.
Any more discussion? Again, just, we discussed this prior to this here, was just not coming to us for the first time, so we knew about this, we had a good discussion at Public Works on this. So, again, I have a motion and a second, if there's no more discussion, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, the other action item is related to our airport road project, in which we have previously designated County Road 257 from Trunk Highway 27 all the way out to 160th Avenue. And then we designated as County Road 287 from County Road 257 into the airport. Those are now county roads. The memorandum of agreement that we have between Little Falls Township and the city of Little Falls has that when that occurs, Riverview Lane, I believe.
Drive.
Riverview Drive would be revoked back to the city of Little Falls. I notified the city engineer that we were going to do this, and he was in agreement with it. And so I'm requesting the adoption of this resolution, which will turn Riverview Drive back to the city of Little Falls, and we now have our memo of understanding, I think, complete.
Gentlemen, I'll ask for a motion and a second.
I'll move on this, Mr. Chair.
I'll second that.
Any more discussion? Not those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks,
That's
Steve.
all I have.
Thanks,
Have a good
Steve.
week.
Thank you, Steve.
Have a good day.
Thanks, Steve.
How about, I see Steve just snuck in. Steve, you want to see what you have for us?
And you thought you were gonna have to just wait for a while, didn't you?
No, I've got a special messaging
Oh,
system that I
okay.
have.
He has inside information.
Gotcha.
He's got a, he's, I don't know where that goes. He's taping.
Oh, good morning.
Good morning, Steve.
Good morning, Steve.
What I have this morning, we'll start out with the county's preliminary levy and budget. And we can start out with approving the preliminary levy at $19,094,153. That's after the aid. That's a 1.28% increase.
Gentlemen, I'll ask for a motion and a second.
So moved.
Second.
Any more discussion? I'll just, again, I want to thank all the department heads. I want to thank the board for doing their diligence on, going over this. This is not the first time. We had a lot of budget meetings, and again, I personally think this is something the county should be proud of, to keep it at 1.28. And again, it only goes down from there. If it does at all, it can't go up. So again, thank you to the board and to the department heads and their staff for bringing this, I think, a great, I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, just to have 1.28.
budget process,
Just a
I would
good,
say,
yeah.
Mr. Chair, I think you as a board definitely instill within all of the leaders here that we need to be conservative. We don't ask for what we don't need, and we justify what it is we do ask for with data that supports it and with information brought forward that really makes sense. So I think we've operated under that philosophy for a long time, and you continue to instill that, and it's appreciated because I think it's a good process and a good job.
As you well know, we've met numerous times throughout this process. This isn't something that we just bring to you and you talk about it today. We've been meeting since May.
Pretty much all summer.
Yep.
Gentlemen, this is gonna be a roll call vote. I forgot my question, so I can't, oh, I know. So when do we set the full levy? That's gonna be in December, I'm
In
assuming.
December. The statements that we set the preliminary for, the truth and taxation statements go out like November 24th, somewhere in that
Okay.
time frame. And then we're meeting, we'll talk about that too, but we'll meet December 11th, and this final will be certified somewhere like December 26th. Is
Okay,
the final.
all right, good information.
Mr. Chair, before we vote, can I
Go
just
ahead.
want to mention one thing in that, you know, we talked about how long we've been meeting and all the number of meetings we've had on this, but I want to take a second to thank Steve for his work, because every time we've gotten together, we have multi-page documents with all the fiscals that are applicable to the decisions that we have to make. And they're always correct, they're always complete, and they're always transparent. And it makes our job here, I'm gonna say, easier. And when we have staff that does, shows excellence in their work for the benefit of us and the people of Morrison County, I think we have to take a minute and say thank you for that. And so I appreciate that,
Well,
Steve.
thank you,
for-
but there's
for
a
your
lot of work on
professionalism.
behalf of the departments to get me the information. I ask for a lot. I mean, I
But
ask
you
for a
ask
process.
nicely,
And I
Steve,
do.
so that-
But I try to make it as simple as they possibly can. I mean, sometimes it's not, but we try to make it simple as we can.
We
It's
appreciate,
Easy to understand.
we
so.
appreciate
Well, I
that.
say,
And it's-
to piggyback on that, again, Steve, again, all the department heads, they keep giving him the right information, but it's his job to keep us on point, I should say, is, you know, that we don't get our spending too out of place, or if there's some mistake, hopefully Steve will be there to pick it up. So again, thank you. We have a motion and a second. We're gonna be spending some money here, so this will be a roll call vote. Commissioner Lemire.
Aye.
Commissioner Blaine.
Aye.
Commissioner Jelinski.
Aye.
Myself is aye. Motion carried.
The next thing then is to approve the budget that we set at $50,329,655. That's a 6.67% increase. There's a lot of stuff that goes into the budget that creates an increase. There's road projects, there's a cell being built, you know, the budget tends to go up and down a little bit more just because of the money that we get or know we're getting, some extra federal dollars and some extra big expense like a landfill cell that's being built next year. So that's why the budget's a little bit higher, but we have money put away for that to pay for those things, so.
And I'll ask for a motion and a second.
Motion, Mr. Chair.
This will be a roll
Second.
call vote. I have a second. Any more discussion? Like Steve said, we have a cell being built here, so that's gonna be, you know, we have the money there for it. Again, it shows that how well we are, you know, conservative, and we can save the money, so we don't have to let the taxpayers see this. So we always put money away or try to do our best here throughout the years, not just this here board, but the past boards. So I have a motion and a second. Again, this will be a roll call vote. Commissioner Blaine.
Aye.
Commissioner Jelinski.
Aye.
Commissioner Lemire. Myself is aye. Motion carried.
Mr. Chair, thank you. I just want to say, you know, we're a big organization. We're a $50 million annual budget, and we have 270-plus people working every day to accomplish the goals that are attributed to that kind of spending. And I think we do a good job, and I think we do a good job under your leadership and direction, and so I appreciate your involvement in this process, and as we move forward, your continued involvement in paying attention to what it is we do and having trust and faith in the staff that does it, so thank you.
All right, Steve.
All right, the next one, we'll be setting the HRA preliminary levy at 40,000. This is an increase. I know we've talked about this. This is, not sure if this was, but we wanted to go in preliminarily at a 40 just because to have more discussion regarding this levy, so.
Gentlemen, this will be a roll call, but first I'll ask a motion in a second.
So move, Mr. Chair.
I have a motion, I need a second. I have a motion, a second. Any more discussion? Not those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Oh, sorry. I said roll call and I didn't ask one. Commissioner Lemire?
Aye.
Commissioner Blaine?
Aye.
Commissioner Jelinski?
Aye.
Myself is aye, motion carried.
All right, and the final item I have is to, now that we've set these levies, now we have a meeting to set. That's the county's truth and taxation meeting for Wednesday, December 11th, 2019 at 6:30 PM in the county boardroom here.
All right, gentlemen, I'll ask for a motion and a
So
second.
moved.
Motion, I need a second.
Second.
Any more discussion? So again, if you could explain what the truth and taxation meeting is, Steve?
Well, what that involves is, as you know, we set this preliminary levy, and it goes out in a tax statement that's gonna go out sometime after November 24th, sometime in there, or prior to that, hopefully. And in that, there's information on the taxes that are being applied for not only the county, but the city and the townships and school districts as well. And it's their time for people to come in and talk to us about our levy and budget and how they're feeling about it, so.
All right.
And talk to us about the levy and budget of the county, and different taxing districts have different requirements and notices that go out for those particular areas.
We send the notice out, but we're just responsible for our portion of that notice.
All right, gentlemen, I have a motion and a second for having the meeting, Truth and Taxation, December 11th at 6:30. Any more discussion? If not, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
All right, well, thank you very much.
Thank you, Steve.
Steve, have a great day.
Have a good day. Mike, come on down. Morning, Mike.
Good morning, Mike.
Good morning.
Mike.
What I brought with, what was handed out was the current budget for the building project. I kind of always go down to the contingency to take a look at that, and there's 144,000 left in that, which I do feel real good about from where we're at and what we have left here, so.
Mike, we haven't, over in the 70s, the public health building, we haven't started over there yet.
No, not other than we're doing some exterior work now.
Okay.
We took the link down and we're doing the new lobbies, I guess, on the outside, the vestibules. But we did do some work in the mechanical room. We did that last year when we did the boilers, and we put new pumps in and heat exchangers and stuff like that. So we have done some work over there, but we haven't demoed anything
Right.
or refinished any areas.
Because asbestos comes to mind, I don't know if that one would have any over there. at all.
That does have some in that building, yes,
Okay.
yep. So there's some, just in various places
Right,
over there,
okay.
yeah.
Otherwise, look, yeah, you said it looks good. Projects are coming along
Yep,
currently?
things are coming along real well. We're painting upstairs right now, and we'll start ceilings late next week. And then we'll follow up with putting light fixtures in. Then a couple of weeks after that, we'll get cabinets in, and then start flooring about this end of the first week of November, so.
Now, if I'm correct or not, the entranceway, that we're gonna be knocking a hole in there eventually too, correct? When we come into the building, where the entryway for the public health and the social service?
It's already built, it's just, there's that construction exterior
We've got,
thing on there.
there's a new frame
Yep.
in there already with a couple of doors, and the glass it's there. It's just, we built the temporary enclosure around it because we had to get on the outside of it to finish it. But if you pulled that away, you'd see the opening and be able to look into the lobby now. So,
Temporary enclosure, much better than construction thing.
So, and we're looking at a completion when?
of that area, about this end of the first week, second week of December, so.
Oh, okay, so
yeah.
that's soon. Well,
Yeah, and then we'll set furniture
Sure.
after that.
Yep,
and
so we're
move
thinking
in,
maybe a
so.
February timeframe of moving and actually having staff locate.
It'll be a great week when we move, I'll bet, huh?
It's always a great week, so that will be another great week. So.
All right. Again, that's good information. Gentlemen, any questions for him at all? Anything else that you may have?
I don't, if you want to stop up and take a tour or ever,
Show
or
me
more
that
tours, I guess, if
incompleted-
you'd like, so.
That entrance,
you can-
non-entrance.
Yes,
and
it's
everything.
there.
So, look at
Yep.
that.
So-
All right, thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Mike, thank you a lot.
And as another side note with that, we're still looking at signage. We're working back and forth with Froggy, a local company, to be able to kind of try to complete that. It seems like it shouldn't be that difficult, but it is a lot when it comes to signage and making sure we get it right. And so we are continuing to look at that, and we'll get some of the completed areas up. And things like the second presenter table in the board room and a few other add-ons or punch list items are going to be complete beginning of October now too with that. So we'll get that all hooked up and ready to go and moving forward. So continues to be things that are filling in from previous phases as we move forward and work on what exists right now.
All right, Deb, and you have anything from the administration? You have a resolution? it looks
I have a resolution for a closed session, and I also have a resolution for consideration of a tentative agreement with a group. I don't have that ready, and I'll talk about that in the closed session. I don't have an action item for a tentative agreement approval, but I wanted to let you know where we're at with contract negotiations. As you know, we are talking with 4 of the 5 groups we have. Their current contracts conclude at the end of 2019, and so I want to give you an update for that. One other item that we do have that Tabitha and I wanted to bring to your attention is the schedule for meetings for 2019. When we approved this late 2018, we didn't have the AMC dates for the annual conference. And so we were a week off, we guessed, at the first week in December, and it's really the second week in December. And so we'd like to propose changing the county board meeting to December 3rd, and then the planning meeting to that Thursday, December 12th, instead of December 10th and December 5th respectively.
Can you send us that link where we accept or not accept on our?
Yes, we can do that. Yep, we'll change the calendar, but just we do vote on this schedule, so wanted to present that and change that so we can get that notice out.
Do we need to vote on that?
Please,
now?
yep.
Okay, all right. Gentlemen, I'll ask for a motion for the
I'll
change.
make a motion, Mr. Chair.
All right, I got a motion. Need a second?
Second?
Any more discussion? Not those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
So we'll get the notifications out to where we need to do that, and then we'll update the schedule. So again, we'll close that session, but if you want to go through your calendars first, and that way we can kind of conclude that working portion of the meeting, I'd appreciate it.
What is today and what dates are we going?
September 29th through October 12th.
All right.
October 12th,
What were the dates again, one more time?
29th,
Through the 12th.
12th of October.
and the 12th is your birthday,
Mine?
isn't it?
No.
Says-
His birthday was already.
Oh, that's my buddy's, my buddy, my
Yes.
buddy Randy.
All right, well, hey, I appreciate that you think of it.
Oh, it's on this calendar.
Maybe.
Yeah, this is in August.
So is it.
I think all 3 of us are about within a week.
Oh, it was a great
Week or
month.
2. Okay.
Okay, let's start with Commissioner Lemire.
Okay, the first, we have a planning session at 8:30, and Board of Adjustments at 7 PM. October 2nd, Public Health at 5 PM. The 4th, T-Schwack at 8:30, Public Works. The 8th, County Board meeting at 9. Meeting with Rosing Township at 7.
Is that their town hall?
It's to discuss our rezoning.
But it's meeting at the town
Oh,
hall, they have a town
I
hall.
think so, yeah. Let me see if she put it on.
Sometimes they are, sometimes.
It doesn't say.
Amy would know. Okay, check.
The 9th, there's a department head meeting at 8:30. And that's all I got.
All right, Commissioner Jelinski.
On the 30th at 3:30 in the afternoon, I've got a Stand Up For You meeting at the high school in Little Falls in room 123. On the 2nd of October at 11 o'clock in the morning, I have an Emergency Services Board Executive Committee meeting at City of St. Cloud. Does anybody have any idea what the initials AEW mean? I have something on my calendar for 7 PM, and I have AEW. I have no location
On the second?
on the 2nd. It might just be something that, who knows? I have no idea what it means. Okay, thank you. So we're just gonna call that a nothing. On the 3rd at 10 o'clock in the morning, I have a State Emergency Communications Board Legislative Committee meeting. That's a phone conversation at my house. On the 8th, at 12 o'clock noon, I believe, is towards zero death at Public Health. On the 10th, at 6 PM, is a Trails meeting, and I think that's gonna be held in Pillager. On the 11th, at 10 o'clock in the morning, there's an Armor Rack meeting at the Alexandria Fire Department. Mr. Chair, that's all that I have.
Thank you. Commissioner Blaine.
On October 3rd, I have South Country Health Alliance
At 9?
at 9. Going back one day on October 2nd, sorry, I'm not going in chronological order, but I will meet with Amy and Swan River Township at 8 o'clock at their township hall.
I'm assuming that's PM.
That is PM, thank you. The only other thing I think I have would be on October 7th, once again, meeting with Amy, and at 5:30 PM, Pike Creek Township for their township meeting. Outside of that, I think you guys got her hammered.
And I'm good to go there too, so we covered it all. Commissioner Wilson, I'm sure maybe.
He does, he has a couple
Okay.
things in here.
All right.
Mr. Chair, I'll move to adjourn.
All right, I have a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second. At